Next question here is from an HVAC company. He says, I own an HVAC company, residential and light commercial. I rate every customer and referral partner ABC, like you recommend, in my system based on whether they're likely to buy or refer. But then what? I have 85 A's right now. Do I call 85? That would take 2 weeks. What about my 200 B's and C's? You said don't call them, so just they get emails forever. Can you walk me through your actual day? How many calls do you make? How do you know when to stop calling or adjust what the rating is and then move on and live life?
I'm curious about is he said it would take 2 weeks to call it 85A.
Exactly.
I was like, that's where I kind of got lost for a second. I'm going 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Most of your A's, they don't answer the phone. You end up going into voicemail anyway, which I prefer that because then I can leave a nice crafted message. I don't have to be on the phone with them for 40 minutes, or 20 minutes or whatever. So I guess my first recommendation would be somehow block your time to you could make 85 phone calls. Okay. 2 days max if you get caught up on some
Exactly. 2 days.
conversation. So 2 days a month, I mean, that'd be like the first, just get it out of the way, right? And I was lost there, so you have to remind me the last half of that question.
Well, and can you imagine how slow your speech must be to make?
Because what would you say? I would say probably 50% of the people you call on you're gonna get voicemail.
Yeah, calling it's not like you're driving your HVAC truck around going to see them. You're
Right.
you're hammering out calls. Like we in the last question we used the word industrial. You go about this like or we both Chuck and Iowa. Chuck and I grew up in Iowa, and there's a saying: "Go after like a bite and sow." It's like no, go after a bite like a bite and sow. Like rah, rah, rah. We're going after it. Come on, chop chop. We've got things to do here. 85. How long you been doing this? Okay, you've got 85 of these and a few hundred of the rest of the stuff. Okay. Well, so what we do is, in our CRM, it tells us ours rotates. We had it built ourselves, so it does this. So if you've got 85 divided by, let's say, just give or take 20 business days, so you're doing 4 a day. So it's only 4 every day that are going to come up. And so you tear those off. That's 4 calls. That's 4 calls. And also our CRM has a timer. Once we start going, it's a timer. At 3 minutes, it goes from green, just like stoplights. It goes green, orange, red. It goes green for 3 minutes. And then once it goes to 3 minutes and 1 second, it hits orange. So it's like, hey, pay attention to what's going on. Be intentional here. Hey, just touching base. Blah, blah, blah. You might have a little bit longer conversation than this, but you're just schmoozing. Maybe it's an 8-minute call max, but that's 32 minutes plus dialing time. Okay. 40 minutes. Your first 40 minutes every day is calling these people. And Chuck said, block it. You block out your time. Here's for your first 40 minutes or your second 40 minutes, whatever, depending what's best for you.
I'd do it all in a day.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make 4 calls a day because you can't get in a rhythm.
Right. Right. You stack it so that, okay, this is my calling day once a month and tear through it. So you've got 85 calls and you've got 8 hours to do it. So that's 10 every 10 and 10 an hour. That's okay. So now you've got 6 minutes a call. So you've got, all right, just tear through it if you can. And like Chuck said, a good half of these are going to be voicemails anyway. Hey man, just touch base. Hope you're well. It's not salesy. I ran across a unit like yours the other day and the thing was dripping and I thought of yours and I just thought, I should touch base. If you take a peek and see if it is, I should, we should next time just put a new PVC pipe on it so it doesn't leak and you have to tear your flora. And click, that's it. That's all that it is. So there you go. And here's the other thing that we do is, let me go back to the illustration that I was going with. Every day it tells us who's 30 days ago. So if we have 4 A's, then everybody else we don't call. We go on to not yet contacted, for example. So it's A's or not yet contacted. That way that you're next month, instead of having 85, you're going to have a few more and then a few more and a few more and a few more. And that's the trick. That's one of the keys right there is how you can have a huge network and only stay in really close contact with a few, yet stay in contact with everybody. You're verbal, you make one-on-one phone calls with the best people, your best
Right.
referrers, and then everybody else just gets emails. And then it's just a sorting game. So, however you're going to, you've got plenty that have been contacted, whether you bought a list or it's just people you haven't contacted yet.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think I would imagine, given some of the ratios there, it might be helpful to go into the distinction between how you guys rate A, Bs, and Cs. Because I know that in one of the conversations,
Yeah, well, I'll
you
tell you.
were talking about some of the nuance between Bs and Cs in particular.
So A, B, and C's. So A is they aren't just a good customer, because we're specifically talking about referrers, recommenders, right? That's all we're talking about right here. And people get that confused with a good customer. They go, "Oh, I'm going to call my good customer every month." No, you're not. If I'm a good customer with a lot of folks, and I hope to God they don't call me every month, why would you do
Right.
that? Why would you do that? I don't need my HVAC talked about this month. I don't, why would you? That just seems bizarre, and I don't want it, and I don't want to do that. So these are referrers, specifically referrers. So A is this, it's either they do send me business and I want to call and keep that plate spinning, or I think that they will. The probability is at least 80% that I think that they're going to send me business. B's are for me, early on, I'm just not sure. Maybe I had one conversation with them and I go, "Hey, just let me send some info out and I'll catch up to you next week." Fair enough. Good. And I don't know if they're what they are yet. So I'll call them a B. I might call them an A because they're going, "Man, that sounds great. This is something that we really love." A C could be like, "Meh, go ahead and send it, but don't hold your breath." I'm still going to call them next. I'm still going to follow up after my first call. So even if it's a first call follow up, I'll call them a C, and I'm still calling them because that's a follow up call. Same with the B. But this is where I determine whether they're an A or C. They're not going to be a B after the second call. They're either going to be an A or they're going to be a C. And then time will tell if the Bs turn into, or if the A's stay A's, or they turn into C's, or the C's turn into A's when they start referring. So does that help?
Yeah, it does.
You start to recognize too after a while, like, when you're talking with people and you go, "Oh man, this guy's for sure an A," right? And then you make him an A, and then you call him for a year and a half and you go, "This guy's not an A," so you just kind of learn, you just kind of get the sixth sense kind of thing, depending on the industry. And also, I kind of judge by how connected this person is as well. What's the likelihood that they're running into people that fall in line of, because I've had a situation where you get like one referral from someone just because it was a happenstance kind of thing, then you're never going to get another one. So
Yeah.
you got to kind of weigh a lot of different factors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes I don't know if it's really a term anymore, but it used to be called brass balls. Everyone wants to get a hold of somebody like, "Oh man, I'm going to blah blah blah. I'm going to set the world on fire. And they'd never do anything. Almost everybody that says that up front, brass balls, and they're not brass. They're, I don't know, they're cotton.
So true.